Hello, my name's Jade and today I'm going to be talking about the books I read in December. I read 19 books in December. I was 19 books off reading 100 books for the year, and so that's why I read 19 books this month. 13 of those were graphic novels, hence why I was able to get through so many. 2 were novels, 2 were non-fiction books. I read 1 novella and 1 poetry book. So a pretty nice spread, to be fair. Let's get into it. We have 19 books to talk about. The first book I finished was I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. I listened to the audiobook for this, which is narrated by Jeanette. Jeanette is most well known for being Sam on iCarly. I grew up in that generation, the iCarly generation, and I watched iCarly a lot, and I think I even watched Sam and Cat because that was my younger sister's generation. I mean, it's about her life, mainly her relationship with her mom. As you can guess from the title, her mom was pretty abusive towards her, but Jeanette didn't know this because it was just life as she knew it. She'd grown up in this family, so she didn't know any different. It's about growing up and being a child actress and what that's done to her and what her relationship with her mother's done to her and her mental wealth and just kind of her life up to a point. It's not exactly a happy-go-lucky book. Obviously there's a lot of trigger warnings, there's a lot of more intense topics, but I don't know if you can kind of tell from the cover and the title. I love this cover as well. I love the colours and I love just like the humour behind it. Jeanette is quite funny. It is quite funny. There's a lot of dark humour in this book, which I do definitely think makes it a little bit easier to read, and also like it puts power to the thought that Jeanette's better now. The fact that she can make fun about this stuff helps when reading that, I think. Just the tone overall I really enjoyed. It was really unique and it's got a lot of hype and I think it deserves all of the hype. It was just really interesting. I was totally absorbed in it the whole time, and the audiobook has done really well as well. I would highly recommend the audiobook if you haven't read it yet and you're interested. I would give I'm Glad My Mom Died a 9 out of 10. It's hard to rate stuff like this because it is so personal. Like I find that with Amanda Lovelace's poetry, like I really find it difficult to rate them. Don't know if it's like one of my all-time favourite books, which is what I typically reserve 10 out of 10s for. But I can't fault it, really. Should I do this by chronological order or should I do it... I'm gonna do it thematically. Normally I like to do these in chronological order because it helps me remember how I read them. And sometimes the order you read books can influence your thoughts on them. I'm gonna do it thematically though because I have such a wide variety of different forms, I guess. So the second non-fiction book I read this month, which is actually one of the last books I read this month, is Talking as Fast as I Can by Lauren Graham, another celebrity memoir type thing. Gilmore Girls to Gilmore Girls and everything in between. I listened to the audiobook for this one as well, which was also narrated by Lauren Graham. If you're a fan of Lauren Graham and you're interested in reading this at all, you have to listen to the audio. It's so good. It's just like hanging out with Lorelai essentially. She's so alike Lorelai in my mind. I've only ever really watched her in Gilmore Girls. I haven't watched Parenthood, but because she's in it now I really want to. Just her humour, and she's so great. I love Lauren Graham. I love Gilmore Girls. I binged the majority of Gilmore Girls this year. I started it in 2020, but this was the year that I finished like the last 4 seasons, and I started the revival I think maybe in November, and I think I watched the first 3 episodes and I started listening to it before the last chapter where she talks about the Gilmore Girls revival. I then watched the last episode and immediately after finished this book. So that was a nice way of doing it. Really enjoyed that time. We get a few little stories about her life. We get her experience on the Gilmore Girls set the first time, we get her experience on the Parenthood set and on the Gilmore Girls revival set, obviously. And there are some like words of wisdom and some advice. My biggest complaint with this, I just wish it was longer. It was so short. Like it is just a handful of stories, which is fine. Like I'll take it. I would give Talking as Fast as You Can a 7 out of 10. It was so much fun. If you are a fan of Lauren Graham or Gilmore Girls, I highly recommend it. Shall we talk about the novella? Let's talk about the novella. The novella I read was A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. I didn't actually read this copy. I have 2 copies, but the other one's like a compendium that has like other stories in it. So like I hate when they do this because I don't know if I want to read all the rest of the stories. I just got my edition of Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde for Christmas, which I read in October. So I'll leave my October video down below if you want to know my thoughts on that. And it's such a stunning edition, but again, it's got other stories in here. I don't know if I want to read all those other stories. Apparently Charles Dickens has written quite a few Christmas stories. I'm kind of tempted to read the rest of the Charles Dickens Christmas stories. They might be interesting. But I've been wanting to read this one for years. This is my mum's old copy from the 80s. I mean, who doesn't know what A Christmas Carol? Do I have to tell you what A Christmas Carol is? I don't think I do. I'm not going to. The version I listened to was narrated by Hugh Grant, and he did such a fantastic job. He did all the voices, and it was a good time. I actually really enjoyed it, and I wasn't expecting to. It's my first ever Dickens as well, and I've only ever heard about how boring Dickens is. I mean, I wasn't expecting this one necessarily to be boring because it is so short and it's such a well-known story, and there's not like a lot of breathing room in there. We get straight down to it. But it was really cute, very wholesome, very quick read. But I mean, it's not mind-blowing or anything. I mean, the films are pretty similar, so I feel like the story's so well known at this point that me reading it, like I knew everything that happened. So I don't know if it would impact me the same way as someone who had no idea what the story was. Yeah, I'd give it like an 8 out of 10. It's pretty solid. The poetry book I read this month was To Make Monsters Out of Girls by Amanda Lovelace. I have read 3 of her volumes of work at this point. It's the Women Are Some Kind of Magic trilogy, it says on the side of the box. I believe this is a duology. I believe there's another one that goes along with it. It's a really nice edition. It's hardcover and it's like soft. I really enjoy the aesthetics of this book, and the pages are quite glossy, and every now and then there's an illustration. Amanda Lovelace's poetry, as I've already said in this video, is very personal, and so every time I read her work, I'm glad that it's out there for people to connect to and relate to. This one especially, I feel like is her claiming something. It's kind of mostly about an abusive relationship and getting over that, and yeah, there were some poems in the beginning I really liked, and there were some poems in the end that I really liked, but as a whole I think this might be my least favourite of her work that I read. But I didn't relate to it. Like some of the other works, I had moments where I related to it, and I even if I didn't fully relate, I could appreciate the pain and I could appreciate the beauty in the words. I just didn't find that with this one. I just didn't connect with it. I either was reading at the wrong time or it's just not for me. I personally would give it like 2 stars, like a 4 out of 10. The 2 novels, let's go to that one next since it's the smaller category, and then we can really sink our teeth into the graphic novels. First novel I finished this month was The Honey Dumpness by Christina Lauren. I had to use a VPN to log in from America to buy this book. You can't get it, the audiobook, in the UK for some reason. I don't know why. I did not check before this video who narrated it, so narrators are on screen. I think one of them may have narrated Christina Lauren audiobooks before. I can't remember if it's Patty Muir because I know she does a lot of Christina Lauren audiobooks. She's narrated In a Holidays, The Soulmate Equation, and Something Wilder. This might be her first audiobook with them. We follow Carrie and James, and they are both assistants to a couple, like a celebrity couple, the Tripps, Melissa and Rusty Tripp. So Carrie is Melissa's assistant and James is Rusty's assistant. Carrie's been working with them for years and years and years, like 10 years or something, since she was 16. She knows them very well, whereas James is he's newer around there. They are about to launch a book. They've just finished a TV show and are about to launch a new TV show. They work in like home design and stuff. They're about to release a book about how to be a couple and about marriage and how to create a strong, lasting marriage. And in the beginning, their marriage kind of takes a bit of a hiccup. And it's James and Carrie's job to kind of try and keep them together and keep it all under wraps for this book tour and for the launch of this show, which is a very fun premise. And the relationship was nice. It was just okay to me. It didn't stand out. I think read some of those that I enjoyed more, but I've also read some that I've enjoyed less. I just wasn't as invested in this one as I have been in some. For me, it's like kind of a mid-tier Christina Lauren book. I mean, I enjoy pretty much all of Christina Lauren's books, even if I don't think it's that great. Like, always fun to listen to, they're always distracting and easy to kind of lose yourself away with them. And even if you don't fully love the situation or the characters, I always still tend to like have a little giggle every now and then. I still like being there. I really like their balance of like, they're not super comedic, I mean some more than others, but they do have that rom-com feeling to them. They're not really intensely mushy, relationshipy, romancy. Sometimes spicy scenes, but there's not a ton. I like the balance of that. I like the energy these books give. What would I give it? Oh, a 6 out of 10, apparently. Sure. Next is another romance book, and it's another one that I audiobooked, and I didn't check the narrators, so I'm gonna put them here. This is a new to me author, but I've heard amazing things about her. It's Window Shopping by Tessa Bailey. Of course, this one is Christmassy, if you can't tell from the cover, so that's why I wanted to read it. There's a taxi on the back. So in this one, who do we follow? I want to say it has something with a T. Aiden and Stella. I mean, that's got a T in it. So we follow our main character Stella. She's recently been released from prison and she's kind of trying to like assimilate back into society, and she stands outside of this window display for Vivant, a kind of bougie-ish shop, and it's a disaster. And a guy walks up to her and he's like, "What do you think about that?" And she says it's a disaster. she secretly loves window displays. She wants to be someone that dresses windows. Guy that starts talking to her just so happens to be the manager of the store, and so he ends up hiring her to dress the windows, and the relationship sparks between the two of them is not super Christmassy. Like I always think of like Christmas films, there are some films that are like Christmas central, like Christmas with the Cranks would be one of them, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, and then there's some that just like take place at Christmas, like The Holiday. It's not that Christmassy, it's just that it takes place at Christmas. This like falls in the category where it's not that Christmassy. Like In a Holidays by Christine Lauren is really Christmassy. I get the feeling from this one that this isn't her best. Like I haven't heard many people talk about it, and like the way I hear people talk about the other ones, like it just wasn't on that level. The characters were fine. I enjoyed the characters. I enjoyed Aiden more than Stella. I think there were some times where he made me like, he definitely made me shriek a couple of times. But also his character, he's like that nice guy with a bow tie, and then all of a sudden he has this like really dirty side to him, and the two just didn't, it just he would say things, he'd be like, oh shoot and oh heck rather than how, and then like he would say this dirty stuff to Stella, and I'd be like, where is this coming from now? I mean, it's fine, I'm sure people can be like that. It was just very bizarre to me. I mean, it was definitely overwritten. There's like power dynamics in play, and both of them are aware of that, but they think about it very black and whitely, and like the author's really trying to justify the relationship, and I could feel it the whole time. So I don't think the writing was great. It was very cliched and it was very overwritten, and it just wasn't great. I'm sorry. So I didn't have a bad time. I definitely enjoyed it while reading it, but I just don't think it's the strongest. I would definitely read more from Tessa Bailey though. I know she's got 2 various trilogies that are very popular. I definitely would be up for trying one of those. This just wasn't it for me. I'd give it like a 4 out of 10, I think. Graphic novels. I have 3 from like various series, and then the rest of them, the 10, are all from one series. The first graphic novel I finished this month was Giant Days Volume 14. This is the last volume in the series. I'll link the video where I talk about the first couple volumes and I kind of break down the premise down below, so I don't have to do it here. It's about 3 girls in university. It follows them from year 1 all the way to year 3. This is the one where they finally graduate. It's the last one. I love this series. It's so sweet, it's so funny, and it's just so addictive and easy to read, and it just gives you all the feel goods. Sometimes it can be very outlandish though. They like introduce like magical realism stuff. I never like it when they do that, because other than that it feels so grounded, and then all of a sudden something really random and like non-realistic will happen, and that happened in the last issue of this. So we have them graduate. The last issue is like 10 years in the future. I liked what it was trying to do, but then it took a turn. I was like, what is this? Why have we gone down this road? I really liked the first half of this, and I really didn't that last one, which is a bummer. Like I feel like last maybe 2 before this as well weren't the strongest, which is a bummer because it's the end. This is the last we're seeing of these characters. That's just the way I personally feel. I would give it like a 6.5 out of 10. And so that it's over. I've not ranked the volumes, like I don't know which ones my favourite are and which ones my least favourite are. Maybe I'll watch through all of the wrap-ups where I talk about them and compile a list for my 2022 wrap-up. And then next up is Something is Killing the Children Volume 5. Again, I'm gonna link a video down below where I talk about the first few volumes. My favourite of the series is definitely 4, that prequel one. I really enjoyed. I think I enjoyed it more than the first 3, but it's been a while since I read the first 3, so I don't know. Maybe it's kind of on par actually. Like the second and the third one were quite exciting, and this one wasn't the most exciting. There were some characters in here that really annoyed me. I'm not sure how I feel about the direction it's going in from here. I like this character though, and I like this world, and the whole thing I find very intriguing, and so I'm always excited to see where it goes. I didn't love it, I didn't hate it. It was just okay. They're very easy to read. I always sit down hesitantly and get through them so much quicker than I thought I would. Yeah. Next up is Volume 3 of Lore Olympus. This is a lot of later volumes, which is unhelpful if you've not heard of any of these. These are a little bit bigger. They're not particularly text heavy, and so you can get through them so quickly. I love the art style. It's so bright and colourful and fun. Lore Olympus is based off of the Hades Persephone myth, but like in a less kidnappy awful traumatizing way. There is trauma in here though, just not with Hades. It's really like the way she's done it. I don't want to say this is necessarily my favorite, but with each installment I get more and more attached and invested in the series as a whole. I'm looking forward to it, like rereading them at some point, because it's definitely gonna be like, say volume 5 comes out and I have to reread them or something, or like maybe when the last one comes out I'll reread them all. They almost remind me of Heartstopper a little bit. They're less happy-go-lucky than that, but it's a similar situation where there's like heavy topics definitely, but a lot of the time it doesn't feel too heavy because of the happy-go-lucky stuff of the art, and because a lot of our characters try to be positive and it's so endearing to watch. But there are definitely heavy, serious topics. I think it's done really well though, and I'm really enjoying watching it all play out. I'm so invested. The only thing I'll say with this issue, or volume in particular, is we have like some weird time jumping stuff going on, some weird like jumping between different people. Other than that, it's a really enjoyable series. I'd give this one an 8 out of 10. So much fun. So excited for volume 4. I'm hoping we don't have to wait too long. The last series I read this month was Saga. So I had read the first 4 volumes, but I cannot remember when I read volume 4. I feel like it might not have even been last year. I feel like it might have been the year before. If it was last year, it would have been like early last year. I got 5 through to 9 for Christmas one year. Again, was this last year, was it the year before? I don't remember. But I didn't want to read 9 until 10 was out, because in my head I had either heard or decided, or like from seeing people's reactions, like made my conclusion that there was some kind of cliffhanger, and so I wanted 10 to be out before, or like have a release date at least before I read volume 9. I started reading them in the beginning of the month, and I knew I was going to get volume 10 for Christmas, and also like it helped with the Goodreads goal. Definitely. I love Saga so much. It's definitely like all-time favorite graphic novel series. The only thing I could think that might rival it would be Monstrous, but I haven't read 6 or 7. It's been a while since I read 5. Next year I'm gonna catch up and sort that out. These ones, they have everything. There's action, there's romance, the characters are so funny. There's so many different like storylines and they all kind of interweave together. The art style is bold and colourful. It's sci-fi with like magical realism and magic stuff in there. There's swearing and there's sex and there's violence, but there's also heartfelt moments, and there's like, they very often talk about very real topics. It has everything. It's also really heavy. I'm gonna go through quick fire my thoughts on each individual volume. So like I said, the first 4 were rereads. I think in particular I really enjoyed volume 1. Obviously like it's the starting point, it's very nostalgic. I've reread volume 1 quite a few times now. And I also really like volume 4 for some reason, which is weird because it's kind of just like domestic life, like nothing big happens in that one. But I think all of these are solid. None of them would be like least favorite status. They're either like top or mid tier. I'm just gonna refer to Goodreads. Honestly. Volume 5, a solid installment. So excited to keep going with the series. Can't wait to see where it goes. Yeah, it was there. Volume 6, I love how many storylines there are now. Also forgot to say in my last review, but Gus is undoubtedly the best character, and if anything happens to him, I will rage. I stand by this. This is true. What's going on over here? Better. I really liked 6 as well. 6 is another standout for me for some reason. Oh, volume 7. Oof, that one hurt. 8, I love the social commentary Saga weaves in, though this one may have verged on being too on the nose. This one we talk about abortion stuff. 9. No. And then finally Saga volume 10. There was a break between 9 and 10, and you can definitely feel the break. Like it definitely feels like we've like reached the second part of this series. Wow, times be hard. I feel like the series has taken a big shift and I'm intrigued to see where it goes, but I think this is one of my least favorites so far. It's difficult to follow up 9. I enjoyed it, but it's yeah. I feel like we're in an adjustment period, and because I didn't have that weight, I think in hindsight I would have liked that gap of time to digest, but because everything was still quite raw, I didn't want it. I didn't want to hear it. Spoiler warning, if you don't want to hear anything. If you've not read this series and you think you want to, then you don't want to hear anything that I'm about to say. So unless you've read volume 10, then mute the screen till this picture leaves. The Will, I really thought he was gonna have a redemption arc. I really like the way he was with Sophie and his sister Sophie and like the girl Sophie and Lion Cat. Like in the beginning I was like, yeah, this is a guy that could be turned onto our side, and he didn't even care. He didn't have any skin in the game. He's just doing it for Gwendolyn. He's dead to me. And it was the fact that it wasn't even just Marco, it's the fact that it was the robot guy as well. Like, I started to really like him. And the way they just kept brandishing his skull around. Mark was like one of my favorite characters, like if not my favorite. I love Alana a lot too, and I always thought, like when I heard bad things happening about 9, I knew it was gonna be Mark over Alana because he's so sweet. He's just a sweet being, and he's talked about it himself within that issue. No one can escape the war. You either like go along with it, like you can't try and stop it. And if he just killed the will, spoilers over. Interesting, like the endings I feel like of Saga are tend to either be really explosive and like will make a big shift for the story. Like I remember the end of volume 1 was like, oh crap, and then every now and then you get like a really wholesome happy ending, which is really nice. They feel very distinct in my mind between like domesticity and adventure traveling times, the times where they're parked versus the times where they're traveling and figuring things out. And also like some of them really hurt. Like when they hurt, it's like cool or nothing. Where some of them are really happy and nice, or like happier. But like I said, overall it's like 10 out of 10 as far as the series as a whole goes. Yeah, those are all the books I read in December. Pretty good variety, both in terms of like mediums and genres and what I thought of the books. I'm pretty happy with it as a month overall. I'm very much looking forward to 2023 and all of the fantastic, I hope, books I read in 2023. I will have a like 2022 wrap up, like favorite books, talking about overall trends and stuff of the year coming up after this one, so keep your eyes out for that if you're interested. That is all I have for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing morning, afternoon, evening / night. My name's Jade. I hope I see you next time. Goodbye.